Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good Chodesh. We are learning Mishna Yoma, Perek Gimel, Chapter 3, Mishnah Gimel, Mishnah 3. So yesterday we finished off the previous Mishnah mentioning that that before the Kohen Gadol would be able to enter the courtyard to start performing the services that he needed to do, he had to go to the mikveh. So now the Mishnah tells us, Ein Adam Nichnas La'azara La'avayda, Afilu Tahar. A person, it says person, it doesn't say Kohen, it says person.
No.
Maybe. Ein Adam Nichnas, no person may enter La'azara, the courtyard, La'avayda, for service. Now we'll talk about that soon. Afilu Tahar, even if he knows he is pure. He knows he is 100% pure. He went to the mikveh beforehand. He knows that he came into no contact with impurity. Nonetheless, Ad sheyitbal, he may not enter the courtyard until he immerses in the mikveh. Now, it's important to understand the nature of this obligation. So first of all, the obligation to go to the mikveh before you do an avoda, before the Kohen performs any service, and maybe when a non-Kohen slaughters the animal or cuts it up, and he's going to the Azara, maybe it's the same idea. I'm not sure. But the point is that the starting point is that if you're going to go do an avoda in the Beis HaMikdash, in the courtyard, you have to be tovel the mikvah before you go in. That's a Torah obligation. What if you're going into the courtyard not to do a service? You're entering the courtyard, but not to do a service. You still have to go to the mikveh? So according to Torah law, you don't, but the sages say you do. Because the sages wanted to make sure that they obligated anyone entering the courtyard to go to the mikveh, so that it shouldn't come to a situation where somebody enters the courtyard to do a service and forgot to go to the mikveh. So therefore it became a rule. The Rabbanan instituted, you enter the courtyard of the Beis HaMikdash, you have to go to the mikveh. It's a precautionary measure to make sure that somebody who does the service shouldn't forget to immerse in the mikveh. So it comes out, So it comes out that the nature of that obligation of any time going into the courtyard is rabbinic. So when the Mishnah says, "Ein adam nichnas la'azara la'avoda," one does not enter the courtyard la'avoda for service until he goes into the mikveh. That's not absolute. Because even if it's not for avoda, even if you enter not for the purpose of doing a service, you have to still go to the mikveh. Our discussion until now is about entering the courtyard to do the service, and therefore the Mishnah talked about entering to do the service. But essentially, or halachically, anytime you enter the courtyard, even not for the purpose of a service, you have to go to the mikveh.
Wash your hands and feet.
No, it says go to the mikveh. Now, next. Once we're mentioning the going to the mikveh, the Mishnah says like this. Chamesh tvilas. There were 5 immersions in a mikveh. Excuse me. Va'asara kiddushin, and 10 sanctifications, meaning 10 washing of the hands and the feet. Remember we mentioned yesterday. A Kohen, any Kohen before he does the service of the before he performs any kind of service, has to wash his hands and feet by the kiyar, by the basin of water that was there in the courtyard. So Chamesh Tevilos, 5 immersions, Vasara Kiddushin, and 10 sanctifications. Tovel Kohen Gadol, the Kohen Gadol immerses, Umekadosh Bay, and sanctifies his feet by Bayayim on that day. They're going to be 5 times he immerses in a mikveh. They're going to be 10 times that he has to do Kiddush Raglayim, washing his hands and feet by the kiyar, by the wash basin. So they explain they spell it out here. The Kohen Gadol was obligated to immerse before he entered the courtyard in the morning, just like any other Kohen. That's number 1. You enter the courtyard, you got to go to the mikveh. 1. In addition, he had to immerse before each of the 4 times that he changed his sacred garments. There, as we're going to learn in the future Mishnayos, there were 4 times that he changed from his, let's call it the year-round garments of the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, and then special ones that he had to wear on Yom Kippur. And during Yom Kippur service, he switched off from one to the other 4 times. So each time that he does that, he has to go to the mikveh. So therefore, the total of times he immerses in the mikveh is 5. Then the Mishnah says, In it, the Kohen Gadol also had to wash his hands and feet every time he either put on or took off a set of garments. This happened 10 times during the day. Once when he put on his sacred garments at the beginning of the day. Okay, meaning any time, as we say, he's switching between his year-round garments and his Yom Kippur garments. So each time each time before he puts it on and after he takes it off, he has to do Kiddush Adam Raglayim. He has to wash his hands and feet. So he had to do it every time he either put on or took off a set of garments. I don't know if he took it. Actually, he probably did it before he put it on and before he took it off. This happened 10 times during the day. Once when he put on his sacred garments at the beginning of the day. Okay, beginning of the day, he's putting on the sacred garments. He's going to do Kiddush Adam Raglayim. Once before and once after each of the 4 changes of clothing mentioned. He had to also do washing his hands and feet once before and once after each of the 4 changes. Sounds like he's doing it. He's doing it before the change. Before the change and after. That's a total of 8. And the 10th time when he took off his sacred garments at the end of the day, he took off the garments. He again went ahead and he washed his hands, his feet by the kiyar. So therefore, that comes out the total of 5 immersions and 10 sanctifications of his hands and feet. Then the Mishnah says, "The kulan ba'kodesh al beis haparva." All those immersions were done in kodesh, in holiness, meaning in the courtyard itself. Al beis haparva, over a area called the Beis HaParva, was on top of a chamber called the House of Parva, chutz mizu avad, except for the one that we just mentioned in the previous Mishnah, which was before he entered the courtyard, he had to go to the mikveh. That one can't be in the courtyard, that must be outside of the courtyard. The first immersion had to take place outside the courtyard because one may not enter the courtyard before immersing. It was done in a mikveh above the water gate. Not Watergate, Shar Hamayim. Which was in the southern wall of the courtyard. So it was in the wall of the courtyard, not in the courtyard itself. So that was an area, that was an unsanctified area. That was going to be, so therefore that one was done outside, not in a holy area. But the rest of them were all done in the chutzner itself. They had a mikveh in the chutzner itself, where he did all the other immersions. Have a wonderful day, wonderful Shabbos, good Chodesh. All the best.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Now.